So this project is specifically for my fifth graders, although some of my fourth graders may want to do this. Some of the fifth graders requested a project with landscape again because we had so much fun doing this in class. And I think being at home, you're going to have a little bit more time, maybe, to work on this. So I'm actually going to create this as probably a 3-week project. The first step is going to be to find a landscape that you really like. And I'm just showing you some different, this is just from my searching landscape and looking at images. You want to look for a landscape that has what we've talked about before, a foreground, a middle ground, and a background. And you also want to find one that's not quite so centered. So, for example, this one right here is not a great example for a painting because it's very symmetrical. And one thing that artists really try to find when they're looking for artworks to create in a painting are things that are slightly off-center or have a balance that happens because of where different things are in the image. So this would be a much better image, this one right here, for using as a landscape painting because it has figures in the foreground, these beautiful mountains in the middle ground, and then sky and more mountains in the background. While something like this, although it is really beautiful, it's very, very centered and kind of makes you see one thing and it's not as interesting to kind of go in and out of. So that's the first thing you want to do is try to find a landscape that you really want to use. I'm going to say the same thing, like if you're looking at sunsets, a lot of my fifth graders I know love to do sunsets, but again, that looks great, Greta. You want to find something that, I don't know what just happened, something that has a middle ground, foreground, and background. This one just has a background and a foreground and not much in the middle. So you want to try to find something that, I don't know how that all happened, something that has all three in it and that has a little more interest to it. So for example, this one right here, a little bit more interesting because it has a foreground, middle ground, background, and also some things that are off-center. So first thing is to try to find an image. It might take you a little bit of time to do that, and then we're going to get some toned paper to do that first part. All right, so you want to look for, find an image. Here's a really cool one. Get some toned paper. Now, those of you that have been in my class doing this before, you know what I mean by toned paper. If you have something that's lightly off-white or gray construction paper or even blue construction paper, anything that's a kind of a cooler color that you can add to, and you can, for this first part, for kind of making the sketch for it, you can use pastels or you can use color pencil. And I know some of you may not have paint at home. If you don't have paint, you can just use pastels for this whole thing, for the sketch and for the main picture. Okay, so now that you have some paper, and I did just go ahead and get blue construction paper to do my under drawing and my sketch, and then I got some, these are basically color pastel sticks. They're called Conte crayons. They are kind of like colored pencils, so you could even use colored pencil if that's all you have. It really is up to you. I also have my really lovely pastels. I recommend doing pastels with it for this sketch underneath, for the pre-sketch, just because it's easier to blend colors and create that kind of atmospheric quality that happens with paint. So anyway, the first thing is to get those out for yourself and do a sketch on here that shows the different shapes. So the main 3 sections of my picture are this bridge up here. I'm going to make it a little smaller so you can see. The bridge, the rocks, and the water. That's my 3 sections. And this is my background behind the bridge. This is my middle ground, which is all of the rocks, the waterfall, and the bridge. And then my foreground is this water here, which I'm actually going to make a bit larger in my picture. So I'm going to sketch out just the lines of those three things to figure out where my bridge is going to go, my rocks, and my water. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll be back. Okay, so this is a little tricky to see since I've used gray on blue, but you can see right now that I've sketched out the bridge. That's up here. The outline of these rocks that are on the side. This is the negative space. So you want to think and look carefully at negative spaces. That might be a space between tree branches. It might be the space between a house and another building. It could be the space like we see here between two rocks and a bridge. That space needs to be the same as if you're looking at an object. So I'm looking at that space and saying, okay, here's what that shape looks like that's in between these other things. And then I have the rocks that are below. My water's going to come through here, but that's going to be a last detail. And then down at the bottom is going to be where my water, sort of the water section, the pond or stream is. So that's what you want to do first, is just lay everything out, and now you're going to start to pull out color. You want to start with the darker areas, so the places that are the darkest, under the bridge here, under these rocks, some of the rocks down here. That's what you're going to look for first. So get the darker sections of your picture, wherever those are, first, and you can use whatever colors are appropriate for that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll be right back. All right, I wanted to show you my progress so far. So here's what I've done. I'm starting to put the darks in, so I'm going to sort of back this up so you can see. There's the bridge, there's some of the shadows in the rocks, and there's some of the shadows that are underneath that waterfall. I'm going to keep going with the shadows. What I'd like you to do for this first step is get all of those shadows in there and really black out your shapes so that you've got a good idea about where all that's going to be. And then once you have that done, so I'm going to do a little bit more and show you, once you have that done, you've got the first step finished. We're going to do the middle tones and the lightest tones in the next section. So that will be that will be posted a little bit later this week. For today, I'd like you to just get the composition, pick out your picture, get the composition, and start blocking out your darkest areas and getting that sketch in there, okay? Let me do a little bit more and then we will close this one up. All right, so this is, I just put a little bit of highlight in here just so you can see what's gonna happen once you do start putting the middle tones in, because I know this is a little hard to read right now, but you can look and compare it to the picture in my reference. See if I can do it like that. And that way you can really see the shapes of those rocks that are on the side and the archway of that bridge and the negative space and then where the water's going to go. So that's what I want you to do for this first step, is just black out your darkest areas, get all those shapes in there, and be ready to start putting the middle and upper tones in there after that. So the next class time, which will be next week, will be starting to put the middle and light tones in. Now I really want you to take your time with this, okay? I want you to focus and don't rush, because the more attention you put to all of these shapes and tones, the better your picture will turn out, okay? So this is where I'd like you to be for the end of this week, and then I will post the next one by the middle to the end of the week, so you can get started with it. All right, everyone, have a great week. I hope you had a good break as well. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.